Hey guys, I got a 2006 F350 dually, big old beast of a truck, and it's got a slight oil leak. And there it is. This is most commonplace to see oil leaks, and just because the bell housing is full doesn't mean that there's an actual rear main CO leak on here. You gotta look higher. And the most common leak is always coming from the valley of the engine. And you can follow it up. See, we're starting to soak the starter. The head's a little wet right there. And you can see you go up, up, up. And we're going right to that valley right there. Now you can see the valve cover's got a little bit of moisture, but obviously it's not soaking the upper rocker box there and then coming down. It's all going to the valley. So if you have a leak down on the bell housing, and you can see it's coming from a higher up source, I really urge you to come up in the valley here and try to pinpoint it exactly where, because of the way the engine's pitched in there, it'll come out either side, especially on the right side, almost exclusively on the right side. Coolant leaks, oil leaks, it all pitches to the right side and then goes down to your bell housing. So what's real common on these is the actual elbow here for the hot side CAC tube, and they're common to have moisture on them like that, and then you follow it down, that one too. The problem is with this one is that it's on an angle, and then it has it's closer to the heat source, and over time of it moving, it develops cracks, and the cracks are on the back side here. And then under boost pressure, it actually shoots out the oil under pressure between the boost and the oil carryover that's normal for a turbo, and it'll actually spray out down here, and you're thinking, that can't be enough. Well, after a while it pulls up on here and then it fouls down the crack and goes to the back. Alright, so down on the back side of the elbow here, you can see, once you flex it, those big cracks right there. And that's really common. And that's where it's all shooting out of, more than the rest of the actual boot on there. Okay guys, we got the go-ahead to actually do these CAC boots. And we're going to do this bottom one and the top one up by the turbo there. So we're going to pull this whole pipe off as one. And the first thing we're going to do is spray those fine threads, because they get a lot of corrosion over the years. And we're going to spray them down with some rust penetrant and let them soak before we ruin those threads, backing that nut off. Impact if you got them. These are long-winded threads. Alright, so loosen this one and then just slide the clamp back, and that'll stay on the actual CAC housing here, and then we'll pull the boot off right here. We got this clamp loosened. These are usually stapled to the actual boot. This one still is original. When you're wiggling this puppy off of here, just watch out for that clamp hitting that positive. It can go through there, and then of course arc out on the housing. And while we're up here, I do the outside cleaning of the cooler itself with the brake clean, so we don't get the new one all full of oil and it slips right off. Okay guys, so the parts finally came in, and I'm going to show you a few tricks to change these out so that they line up properly when they're done. If they don't line up properly, they can actually rest on top of the components in the engine compartment and make noises, and they can actually blow off from not being lined up properly too, because they won't have a full seat on, let's say, the turbo side. So there's a few tips, and the first thing we got to do is these threads right here on the clamps that are still tightened to the actual tube here, we need to spray them with WD-40, something like that, so we don't strip them out. Now if yours are like mine, they're like brand new, there's no reason to do that. And you can go ahead and start taking them off. So they're 11mm or 7/16. Okay, so make sure you loosen it all the way, almost towards the end here, and then we're going to start loosening this clamp from the actual boot here, because they get stuck on there pretty good until it becomes free like that. Now don't touch the tube just yet. What we're going to do is we are going to clean the tube right here where that white line is right there, and we're going to make a mark on the actual tube. That way we line it up perfectly the way it was from the factory. And I would say this side, the turbo side, is more important for this mark to be perfectly correct, so it has a proper angle going into the turbo. So we mark that and I'll let that dry. We can take this off now. Let's go around and separate it. It's going to be stuck on there from the heat. Here we go. Just put it there. And now on the inside here you're going to see lots of oil, and that's normal for a turbocharged system. It's going to have oil carryover, and that's just the way the system is. Alright, then going back on, that part of the elbow has the ridge on it like that on the inside. That's the part that goes onto the actual tube right here, and it locks into this groove. So just make sure you put it on that side, and it'll be hard to go over, and then it'll get easy. So you don't want to be too far up like this, and you see it's hard to turn. Let it pop down in that groove, and now you can see it's easy to turn. At this point, all you got to do is line up your marks, your white mark and your mark you made earlier, and then you can start clamping it down. Clean your clamps up best you can. Alright, so the same thing for this side. Clamp the area real quick, and then we're going to loosen the clamp, and we're going to mark that white mark on the actual boot here with the actual pipe. Alright, so this one's a little bit different because the mark is on this end, so we're just going to follow it. We're going to trace it down to this side. We'll make our mark, we can line it up. Let me get this out of here. And this one has the same thing, it's got that ridge in there, so it locks onto that pipe, to that ridge right there. Push it in until it becomes free like that, and then we can start lining up our mark. You can see we're lined up with our mark. Follow it through. At this point we can start putting our clamp on, tightening it down. And we'll snug it up, but we're going to do the final angle of this actual clamp on the car also. So the most important part of putting these clamps back on is that they're centered within these white lines right here. There's a white line there and there, and that puts even pressure on that rib, which is right in the center of that. So it really pushes it into the groove, so it cannot, pop off of here under boost. That's really important. Plop it in place. And these will go on nice and tight. And then down here on the cooler, all you got to do is lamp your white mark with your black mark, and we'll tighten this clamp first. So just slide her on. Make sure we're centering the white stripes. We can see at the current position where we're lined up, this clamp will not contact anything. So this clamp's good, and we'll leave it where it's at. We'll just torque it down. And there it is, all done. Centered up, lined up marks. I got them torqued down to 110 inch-pounds. And I even cleaned the marks off. We got this adhesive remover that pulls it off pretty easy. So I did that and cleaned the rest of it up. And you can see these ones are all tightened down and angled out just right. And then we'll put our hose back, and that way it doesn't rub on the hose. And this is about the gap you're going to want. This hose will fit down in that groove, and it will self-center in here, so don't worry about this. Don't keep trying to force it back. I had that problem early on in my career, and I always try to force it back, I'm going to tighten it down, slip back down. Be concerned it's going to fly off when he's under boost. It fits in that groove. So this is about the gap you should have. And as you can see, it certainly raises it up more than the other one, so it's not so soft and sagging. So it's really floating over everything, especially up here. You can see the gap. So it ain't going to touch anything, and it's definitely not going to fly off. So hopefully yours turn out just like mine. Nice, clean, new, and all sealed up once again, torqued down, and ready for the road. Ready for hauling.